I do obviously get to know them in a very intense and specific way. They're under duress. They're away from home. They don't have contact with their families, you know, for the most part. They don't have access to a newspaper, internet. And so that lets me often see a side of them that not many other people get to see. And every season is different, every group is different. It's like being a 4th grade teacher, you know? And so every batch has its own collective personality. And often the ones you root for, you know, aren't even the front runners. They're the chef that can never get out of his way, or, you know, the chef that, you know, she always makes the same mistake. And so it's really, anyone who's competed on the show will tell you, A, it's a lot harder than it looks on TV, and B, there's nothing that you will do in your professional life that will be as taxing and as much of an opportunity for growth, especially in such a short period of time. And for me, it's beautiful to watch that growth. And I think that's why our audience really loves the show, is because it's very compelling to see someone try to strive to be the best that they can be, you know, to pull out all the stops, to not care if their finger is bleeding, to really like try to be the best at what they do. And I see that, you know, sort of elbow to elbow, and it's wonderful. I never get tired of it. I mean, even when we do the quick fires and I'm not in the kitchen while they're actually cooking, because we have so many cameras and a lot of stuff going on, I'm in the control room. I'm still watching what's going on. And so it's to me, mesmerizing. And I'm not, you know, other than the Knicks, I don't really watch sports. But for me, this feels like that.
Graham, I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of food shows out there.
That's correct.
He's been on most of them.
I was just going to say, I've seen you before. This is not the first time.
This is just the best
Takes
time.
a while to get to the best one.
It started, though. It all started with us, right? Sort of?
Top Chef
Top Chef
Top Chef Masters.
Yeah.
What made you want to do Top Chef as a judge?
You know, the opportunity to be with such an esteemed group of people, but also, like I think what everyone's been discussing, is that it's a real,
you say that, by the way.
best 20 bucks I ever made. Yeah. No, I think that the fact that this is the show, this is the pinnacle that everybody rates everything else against, because it really is about food. You know, these aren't people that are coming on to do some goofy, you know, cook with one hand tied behind your back for 3 minutes. And
Although we've done that.
You've evolved, though. That was back in the day, like what we just saw. So,
2008,
yes, things have changed in
The two
10
people
years.
tied together,
But really the thing is, it's not, let's make the goofiest future, you know, TV chef. It's about making food. A lot of these people are already esteemed chefs or in their own community, have done great stuff. They make tasty food, a name for themselves. They come on, they prove that. They win the title, or maybe they go home in the first week, but they're still proud of what they make. And they go back and do what they do. And like we said, they win awards, they get praise, whatever, but they're committed to cooking great stuff more than just, you know, being a TV person, if you will. So there's other shows for that, obviously, but I think that's what's great. That's what I've learned being a part of this side of Top Chef, is that you don't care about the story. It's not about, you know, this person's from here and that one did this, and it would be great if this one wins because of whatever. It's like, you had to cook this, you had this much time, this person made it this way and seasoned it this way, and they win.
Yeah.
And that's awesome, the purity of it.
One of the things that I've often talked to with people about Top Chef is that one of the challenges as a viewer is, if I watch somebody make a dress on Project Runway, I know whether I think it's ugly or beautiful or whatever, and I can look at it myself. What do you find key to trying to give people an idea of what food tastes like? How do you explain it in a way that's accessible to people, but also specific?
Very, very early on, I mean, we've had conversations about this. Very early on, we knew that we had to talk about food in a certain way. We had to get people excited, because you can't taste the food. So you have to rely on what we're talking about. And so the idea was, we're going to have an honest conversation about food. And we all have very different ideas about what food should be, and we have very different criteria for judging. And that's just it. There is no set criteria. No one came to us and said, this is how you're judging. And so we all have different opinions, and we try to be honest about it, and we try to have a spirited conversation. And often, you know, we're not allowed, at least the production tries to keep the judges apart from talking about what we just had. So it's fresh, and so no one's influencing anyone. And so, yeah.
I also think it's my job to be the audience's representative and to communicate what I'm experiencing. And, you know, food is a very sensorial experience. And, you know, I'm coming from being a writer, and so it's up to me to convey not only to the chef so that they can understand the result of this labor they've, you know, done, this beautiful dish they've done, but to the audience so they know. And we also figured out that it's better for everybody if we just don't say, you know, your dish sucked. That we say, your dish was interesting, but it could have been way better executed because this and this and this. So it's helping that chef understand what's wrong or right about their dish, and that, you know, they can learn from it.
There's an inherent conflict between the viewer's point of view and ours. We don't, as Padma said, get to know the chefs at all while we're shooting. All we want to know is the dish they put in front of us every day, and we only judge on that dish alone.
Right.
For every competition, for every challenge. So we are only judging on this piece of food that's in front of us, not what they made yesterday, not what they are capable of possibly making in the future.
Not who's making out with someone.
Right, and not their personal lives or what's going on in their
We
personal
don't know about that.
We don't see what happens in the kitchen. We don't see their interviews. But on the other hand, you as a viewer only see everything once it's all cut together, which we're seeing for the first time as well. Their interviews, what they're saying back at the house, how they act towards each other in the kitchen, all of that emotional, all those emotional elements are what you all see, and so you judge the show on your emotional connection to the chefs, and we actually are completely on the other end of it. So to your point about Nina, when you first sat down, you're right, she didn't win, and that's not because we all don't love Nina. It's because that day, in that moment, after what I can tell you was 8 hours of deliberation, we all decided that Nick made a better meal. And you know how I know that? Because I was there and I tasted the food.
Yeah, I've heard all of you guys talk about that, and I totally get it.
And I'm not like saying it about it. It's the truth. It's that all we can do is judge on
What's placed
in front of us. And that day, not even in that season, but that day, I've never regretted a decision in that way. That you know, Nick made us a slightly better meal for many complicated reasons, but that doesn't mean that Nina was not the most worthy competitor, right? But it's complicated because the viewer, of course, some viewers might be upset for all different reasons about why the person didn't win.
We get very colorful mail.
Yes.